Well, we are back. It is episode 20 of the podcast of Steel, and I have another comic shop on the show. This is a starting trend. I want to do more of this because it's a great way to speak with people from the industry and to talk about passionate people. And yes, I'm joined by Bryce today from Crunch Comics in Reading. Hello, Bryce.
Hello, Luke. Oh, I am Bryce from Crunch Comics. I'm ready.
You are. This is fantastic because I recently visited Reading and for a friend who was getting a tattoo done, and as I do, if I'm going to a new area, I will search for comic shops, and Crunch Comics came up straight away, and I thought, well, let's check this out,
Yep.
and it was a fantastic experience. So thank you for that, first of all.
Okay.
I try not to be too annoying when I go into comic shops, but when I came into your shop, I think one of your questions was, "What are you looking at? Anything in particular?" And I was looking,
Yeah.
and I hit you back with, Action Comics number one, if you've got it.
Well, I think when you overhear new people that you've never seen before being like, I'm looking for something in particular, you've got to hit them with the sales line of what are you looking for? And Action Comics 1, tragically, unfortunately, isn't something that we offer off the top of our head, but I think I dealt with it pretty well. I sold you some comics anyway.
You
I hit
did.
the task,
Yes,
so
no, you got a sale out of me, which we'll be talking about later on, as I do have those here. So yeah, Bryce, let's start with your origin story and how you
mm.
started working for Crunch Comics.
My origin story is a tragic tale. No, it isn't really at all. I am a huge Power Rangers fan. This is where all the nerdum, fandom, whatever started for me, and they started doing comics, and I was getting them from the big company who shall not be named, and they messed up my orders, and it was getting sad, getting tragic, and it was a lot of chasing around on eBay. And I sat at my bus stop in Reading Town Centre, and across on in this tiny writing, like a holy grail on a sign, was Crunch Comics. And I called Brian, who's the owner, and that it's just me and Brian at the moment. But called Brian and sort of said, near tears, I literally was stressed with these Power Rangers comics,
Oh,
like, have you got them in? And he did. And I've sort of, we stepped into a really great friendship, and I was in between jobs, and Brian sort of knew that. And he offered me a job as literally part time to work on Sundays. And 6 years, maybe 5 years later, I've been there ever since. And we've just literally, this will be out on next Monday, but 2 weeks gone, we've just celebrated our seventh birthday. So I've been there nearly the whole time of the Crunch Comics story.
and a genuine origin story, Bryce. That's it's
Yeah.
trials and tribulations. It's got drama. It's got good news and bad news. But that's what we like. And again, and did you get your comics in the end? Did you get your comics sorted out?
I did get my comics sorted out. I've got the Power Rangers comics, and then laughably, I don't even collect Power Rangers anymore because I fell out of the story. But I collect plenty of other
It will
comics.
it will
So
be there though when you are ready to step
where
back
when I'm
into
ready
that
to
world,
return,
because
yeah,
it is again it's another industry that is popular, very
mm,
very popular. The amount of money that I've seen people spend on masks and swords,
yeah,
and and again they're always at the comic cons, they're always at the events. Those
yeah,
rangers, I remember when that show started, and I was kind of just like blown away by it. I had sort of it was it was okay. There's a fun story. There's a little bit of safer violence, and there's these mega monsters as well. This
yeah,
is this is all you need
everything
as
you
a kid.
need.
It's got
Yeah,
everything. It's got everything. So I've always dreamed about working in a comic shop. It's one of
yes,
those things of, one of those pipe dreams of having a coffee shop slash comic shop or
comic shop. Yeah,
something
yeah,
blended in, but it doesn't have to be a blend sometimes. It could just be a comic shop. I find them to be safe, happy places. It's that place where you go to get new comics and to find old treasures sometimes as well. But a typical day in the life of one that works in a comic shop, what's going on with that, Bryce? How does it happen?
there's a like a hefty amount, really. It's a lot of, you've got to be on your A game at all times. I was listening to your one of your previous ones with, I think it was Get Ready Comics,
Yes.
and Jade, if I'm hoping I remember that correctly, was sort of saying like she loves every day and is like really, really happy. And I was like, I'm so glad someone else still has that sort of enthusiasm, because you do feel like it gets beaten out of you a little bit in retail, especially just coming off of Christmas.
Yeah.
But it is that real, you have to go in with a high sort of mood, because actually it does throw you a lot of things. And I think there's that, uh, customers come in and we have like a great relationship with everyone, but it's sometimes you literally are living these people's sort of lives alongside them, and you don't quite know who's coming and what stories they're going to tell, if it's going to be good or bad. And then there's plus the whole admin, and actually just the behind the scenes in that sense. We're not just sat there
No.
reading comics. It's not all spaced like the dream of comic stores anymore.
Don't kill it for me, Bryce. That was one of my
I'm
favorite.
sorry. I'm
That's no,
sorry.
but no, I mean, and I've worked in sort of retail and customer services most
Yeah.
of my life. So you put it quite well. The fact there are always lots of balls in the air, and there's so many
Mm.
different elements to your role. Yes, you've got the customer service. Yes, you've got to be thinking about all the next list of jobs that you have to get done that day, and then you've got again regular and new customers, and then you've got a
Yeah.
new comic book day, and you've got deliveries that might be turning up late, and then you've got
Yeah.
all these other things. So but the first impression that I get, and sometimes first impressions are crucial, but they're not always ones that you should go on because everybody changes. But your wonderful demeanor as I entered that shop, it started with a hello, and I was like, that always helps. Just a hello
Yeah.
is nice. Just making eye contact, making sure somebody knows that you are there. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is going to be a good shop. And it was. And I can't wait to come back. But more
Thank
about
you.
that of Crunch Comics soon. But I love everything that was in there. But it's in a mall, like a traditional shopping mall. I
Well,
love that.
it's an arcade, so it's Harris Arcade, and it's
Yeah,
actually grade two listed, and
gorgeous.
it is very, very lovely. There's pros and cons to it because it's a little bit hidden away off the beaten track, so you have to sort of know you want a comic store. Not a lot of people stumble down it, but we've got some great sort of stores who have become our friends. Like, we're a real tight knit community down there, which is actually really nice, and it's sort of this lovely throwback to, uh, like, people will come down there, like sort of older people, and be like, I remember the sweet shop that used to be here, and now it's like a hat store. Isn't that like great? And it's sort of really, really sweet to see the evolution. But it's a really nice sort of little arcade to be working down.
Yeah, I
And I
was
guess,
lost. There was a
yeah,
few sort of random shops there that I was getting stuck in.
yeah,
There was a fun record shop again. There was a hat shop, and I was like, okay, this is
yeah,
cool. There was a sort of a Chinese herbs and medicine shop. There was a
yeah,
little beauty parlor, your shop, and a sort of a knick-knack shop down the very end that I got some items from. Sort
yeah.
of like a sort of a hidden treasures of like pop culture and old
Pop
books and
culture,
toys.
yeah.
Love that. That was crazy.
I
But
will say, when people come to Reading, it's like they sort of have this great little nerd paradise that you're not sort of quite realizing. And I will shout them out. There's Eclectic Games down Union Street, who are friends of the store as well, and they are the best board game shop
I went in
ever,
there as
sort of there.
it was a very wet day when I traveled to Reading, but
Yes.
yeah, and I was just amazed at the amount of games they had and their
Mm,
dice selection. So
yeah,
many, and it was yeah, that was I could have again another shop that I could have got lost in for hours.
yeah,
There's a lot of niche fandoms in Reading that I had no idea about,
yeah,
whether it was the
100%.
gaming and the comic shop and the gaming stores as well. So I'll be definitely coming back in this year to check out your shop and check out some more of the nerdy things that are in Reading because it's popping up. I think that combination of new fandoms and nostalgia, they're combining and they're making more and more nerds and geeks around the world, which I'm all for.
A big Zord of
That's it.
nerd combinations.
So yeah, we've had Christmas, one of the busiest times of
Oh,
the
yeah.
year for you. What's been some of your most popular stories from 2023?
We're in this, talking of like new people coming in, it's always the trying to say hello. And we've had the just in the past week with Ultimate Spider-Man, we've had people crawling out the woodworks. You're like, oh, we're already out, sort of. We were out so quickly.
Wow.
But for us, actually, the Energon universe was a big seller for us that
Okay.
we sort of weren't expecting. we were expecting some, like we really pushed Void Rivals, but we've had people come out for Transformers that we sort of weren't expecting. Like, I think everyone's a Transformers fan apparently. I didn't know this, but everyone is.
There are levels, but we are all out there. See,
Yes.
I'm old enough to be there when the originals came out. I've still got some of my original Transformers safely in boxes in the attic. But then you've got just different waves. You've got the fans that were there for the comics, those that collect the toys, those that collect the model kits as well. It's again, it's another $1 billion franchise that will always be around.
Yeah. And I think actually as well, for me, I love Daniel Warren Johnson. And so I've read some of his other stuff, but I haven't really engaged with Transformers. But to see people come in and as well be turned on to his art has been really, really cool from sort of that old school fan of his point of view. And that everyone's coming in and being like, just look at this. They're doing cool things. This is my imaginary Transformers comic here. And yeah, so that was a huge hit for us. And as well, the X-Men actually has been like a nice slow burner. I think with Fall of X coming up now, that a lot of people have sort of cottoned on and gone, actually, you know what? Let's go back. I'll do that and sort of come in and enjoy that. And then all of the Black Label DC stuff is just
Mm,
oof, gone.
yeah.
That people have really liked that format. I know superhero fatigue is sort of movies only and maybe a bit overused nowadays, but I think people have liked this Black Label coming out and being like it's slightly more prestige,
Mm.
they're different tales, and like all the film tie-ins, especially the Batman film, was it last year?
Yeah, beginning
Yeah,
of last year, I believe. Yeah, there was a lot of
yeah.
tie-ins for that.
A lot of tie-ins, which was really, really great. And we had a lot of people coming in for those as well. And I think uh, for us, and we definitely say like there's a bit of a not necessarily everyone wants the independence or the film tie-ins, unfortunately. So we don't see as much pushback. But I think it's just sort of our little market,
Mm.
our area. We don't get as many of the people that would read that. But there definitely has been some films like the Batman really, really launch sort of comics and the Spider Verse films. Always, you get a lot of comics selling off of the back of that one, but you never really know what films are going to be enough
No,
of a hit to sell comics.
that's it. And I mean, that superhero fatigue that you talk of is something that does get brought up everywhere now, sadly. And
Mm,
it's easy to understand why when you get so many superhero movies a year, so many superhero TV shows coming off that, and sometimes it's hard to keep up, especially sort of there's so much stuff now on Disney streaming. There are so many
yeah,
shows that if you miss one episode of a season, you need to sort of watch them all so you don't feel that you're missing out on something else. So
yeah.
the fatigue is real, I believe.
It is. Oh, and like things like Loki, everyone comes in and praises Loki as one of the
Mm.
best TV shows they've ever seen. But we don't sell many Loki comics. Even they did the alligator one, and I was like, surely that people are going to go for alligator
It's
Loki.
pretty a niche
They
character.
didn't.
It's getting a lot of love, but no, even cosplayers coming out of the
Yeah,
woodwork. But yeah, it's a shame when they don't balance each other out. It's
yeah,
great when we get a successful movie or TV show, but also it's the fact that you want the comics to do well because if we didn't have the comics, you wouldn't have any of this.
any of this.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't have any of this world, whether it be comics or theme parks or anything. So it's slowly, I think, the worlds are combining where people are finding mutual respect for the comics and the movies. And I think in the
yeah.
next few years, especially this year when there's not many superhero movies coming out, I think hopefully we'll get back into the comics and everyone can start
Mm.
appreciating everything as well.
And I work
So
that some of the comics are great. Like, sorry, I had to cut you off, but
that's right.
just like I've started reading the Thunderbolts one, and I'm not really a Marvel reader, but then someone was like, "Yeah, there's a film coming out," and that's like cool. And it's probably not going to be a great seller for us, but it's still this. I think maybe the slow burn towards these films is going to be a little bit more exciting. There might be some more comics payoff because I think we're definitely in the die hard film
Yeah,
point.
it is now. I mean, there's there's always the good and bad parts of the internet where everyone comes together to fight their corner, whether it be Team Marvel or Team DC, Superman v Batman, or whatever you've got. But that's the passion that you have, and when people respect each other's opinions and they start
Yeah,
again reading more stories and finding out about new characters, we can appreciate more of it. Because that's the thing, that if I was working in a comic shop, I would be a dreadful worker. Don't hire me, Bryce, because I would just spend all day just going on a red string theory, going from one comic to another to
to
find
another,
out
yeah.
as much as I can about each and every hero and villain.
Honestly, you'd think there's enough time for that, but there's not. It's very rare we get a minute of downtime with all the stuff we're doing. So I'd love to say I spend every day. I had someone last week be like, when it was absolutely pouring down with rain, be like, but you could be stuck in a comic store all night. Like, don't leave, it'll be lovely. And I'm like, but there's comics I want to read that are at my house. Like, I need to go home. It doesn't end. We've run out of these comics here. And I think there's something so great about how much stuff there is everywhere that it sort of never ends. But comic working, it's a dream, but also a very, very stressful,
Yeah,
tiring
I bet.
dream.
I bet. And I mean, I think that's it. It's quite sort of overwhelming to be in a room that's got so many comics in, and that you think, well,
Yeah,
I need to start reading this one. But as you said, I've got a stack of comics at home that I've not even bagged and boarded yet that I'm still
yeah,
looking at. So
yeah.
it's a fine balance between finding the time to enjoy them and to maintain a business.
Maintain it.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, because I visited twice when I was there on that day. And the first time I went in, we had a nice little chat. And the second time I came in, we were still talking, but I could see that you had a delivery. You were
yeah,
sorting out people's picks of the week. You were sorting everything out, and it was a like watching a well timed machine go to work, because you were getting a bag, getting a board, ticking a name off the list, ticking a title, and I was like, wow, this is a
yeah.
full on gig. This one.
We were Brian and I were so I don't know if I've really brought up Brian. So Brian is the owner, the boss, the force of everything ticking along. And he was saying like he thinks we've only got maybe 100, 150 customers on a pull list who like have individual pull
Mm.
lists. And I'm like, not anymore. Like in each of these drawers, so we have two full filing cabinets plus like overspill. There's probably about 100 in each drawer, give or take. Like we're probably 500, 600 people who've, oh, that's maybe an overestimation. That sounds crazy big, but who do have pull lists or get comics with us. And I think there's that sudden explosion where we suddenly realize we are a proper comic store because the well-oiled machine is a lot of we're putting on like Star Wars soundtracks and trying to crack each other up normally just to get through delivery day because it just feels so hectic and mind pushing in, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, you definitely saw us on a good delivery day where we were a proper well-oiled machine. Sometimes it's a lot of bickering of like, that person should be there or they aren't, and we have different views on what the alphabet is, which sounds confusing, but in
Right,
comics, you need the
right.
alphabet,
No,
in our store at least.
we're diving into this. So first of all, I want to know what you believe is the incorrect way to organize comics. This could cause a heated debate when you get back to work. But what's the correct way to run a comic shop,
Well,
Bryce?
uh, don't get me fired.
Please
Not
don't
not
fire
before I've even
Bryce.
started for the day. Um, well, I think just in our bags, so pull list bags, we have a alphabetical order, but
Mhm.
it's Brian will do things by middle name alphabetical order, so people have like attachment names
Mm.
and not by the last name
Mhm.
alphabetical order. And then sometimes, so say you came in and we didn't catch your last name,
Yeah.
you would therefore be Luke Superman and be under S's for Superman, but you won't know that. So you'll come in and say, hi, I'm Luke. I'm here to collect da da da. And one of us will be looking in the L's, then the B's, and then the S's because we'll think, we've put you under Luke Superman.
Well, that's
So
fine because my middle name's Spencer, so I've got LSB. So it's all there,
we're
so it
all right.
works
We're
out.
sorted.
But now you've mentioned Luke Superman, I'm thinking about changing my surname now because that sounds
Yeah, I'm
quite nice.
honestly surprised it wasn't actually Superman as the middle name.
It's got a good ring to it. I'll
It's
admit. But yeah, I mean that would get quite difficult if you've got people with sort of again like double barrel names and
Yeah,
those Klingon names as well. It's going to make things a bit tricky. So yeah, I can understand why things being in a nice alphabetical order would be nice and easy for you.
yeah,
But there you go. But it keeps you on your toes when you get a name coming that you can't find.
yeah, it does. And I think as well in our back issue, so we try and work through this alphabetical order sort of thing as well everywhere. But then in the back issues, you'll sort of get other customers who'll put like things in different places, and they don't mean to. There's a lot of back issue boxes we've got out on
Mm,
shelves, sort of like on show, and then you'll come through and you'll be like, why is Batman all the way over in like the Wonder Woman section? What's happened here, sort of thing. But we don't notice because we're not going through them all the days.
yeah,
That's the top lesson. Everyone come to Crunch Comics. We're a really lovely, amazing store, but
they
please
are.
abide by the alphabet.
Yeah, it's and not the Klingon alphabet. This is like
Okay.
this is a classic. We're not going
Standard
Greek.
A to Z.
It's A to Z. It's nice and easy. Some numbers in there just to get things mixed up. I hate when
Yeah.
numbers are used in comics. It makes things far too.
Oh,
I've got a decent behind me. There's a whole mess of a barrage of comic boxes and long boxes
yeah.
behind me, and it gets to a point when, you know, I'll never say that I will not stop collecting comics, but I love those days of finding a bargain bin of comics that I haven't got and coming
Yeah.
back and finding out that I do actually have it. And now I've got triples and quadruple variant copies. But I've tried to slow down with the variant comics that because there's so many comics that come
Yeah.
out
So
now that are
many.
for me when it got tricky was when Action Comics number 1000 came out a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I was grateful to work with DC for a bit of to help celebrate that momentous occasion. But then it was like, well, you want to collect the variant covers because that's artwork that you're missing out on. It's the exact same story inside. It's just the
Yeah.
front page that's a little bit different. And yes, I was a sucker, and I did get a lot. I've got a friend, Tasmin, the aspiring Kryptonian. She's on a sort
Mm.
of a mission to get all of them, and I think she's very close. And there were some ones in that list that were very rare and quite
Mm.
pricey. So
Pricey. Yeah.
yeah, but it's the variants that make things tricky. But
Yeah.
it's
I mean, well, we encourage people obviously to buy as many variants as they want with
of
us,
course you do,
but
of course.
yeah, because we're so small, we can't offer like even I just recently brought a 1 in 25 from somewhere else because it was like there's no way we can get a
Yeah,
1 in 25 on such small runs because unless it's like Spider-Man or Batman, it's just so unlikely for us. But we do try and go as far as we can to get as many variants as possible. But there are some people where we say, look, maybe you don't need to, you get enough with us. You don't need to worry about doing all the variants. We'll let it slide because
yeah,
it is
we just
that slippery, fun slope.
it is. I mean, and again, it can be quite. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a foil variant. I love something that's really different. I'm obsessed with how many times they've tried to recreate Action Comics number one with Superman raising the car.
Yeah,
So
I've seen
that's
that comic so many times now. Just
it gets about, bless him. But yeah, there's been lots of I think there's been I think Marvel. I've done it a few times. I think they did it with a few characters where they've sort of recreated that scene, and I've tried to
yeah.
get as many as I can. But some of those go for sort of for crazy money now, which is a little bit unsettling. But one day I shall get them all. But let's go back though, because I said I love going through £1 boxes and mystery boxes and finding a bargain. What I did see on your social media page before I came to the shop were your
Yeah.
mystery bags, which
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your mystery bags, Bryce.
Um, my personal no. We have so much back issue stock, and we've got so we're quite a small footprint of a store, but above us that you don't really see, we've got a
Mhm.
bunch of storage and so many back boxes. And unfortunately, in this day and age, it's quite hard to find readers that want to collect back issues, or a lot of people are looking for certain things at this point. And so we've been doing these mystery bags as sort of a a great way to get people into different comics.
Yep.
And we've had like this week just gone as well, we've had someone say, oh, I picked up a Hit Girl in your mystery
Wow.
bags.
Well
Can
done.
I get, yeah, can I get Hit Girl and Trade paperback? And boom, done. So that's like a extra sale for us. And it's these little introducing things, and it works so well at like if people don't know what they want to get, it's like start here. So we do basically the mystery bags are we put roughly 5 comics that are all for a fiver, and their price is worth about £10, give or take. Sometimes for special occasions, we've thrown in still for a fiver ones that price equals like 15 or 25 quid just to have them on the go. And they make great gifts, and they're really, really cool things to have. And we offer them for independents, DC, Marvel, and then some of them have got age ratings. But yeah, it's this having these mystery bags out to sort of turn over our back issue stock. They're some of our best sellers, and then it means we can put more out back issue wise and sort of change up our stock all the time.
It was like for me seeing it, I was like, oh, which one do I pick? Do I pick a good one? Do I pick a
Yeah.
bad one? Do I pick a mix? Do I pick a DC or a
So
Marvel?
you did get one, didn't you?
I did. The other two I've already been bagged and boarded and put away. But what I did get out of my what I consider to be the best kind of comic Kinder Egg surprise, I waited till I'd got home before I unleashed my bag. But three of them I've got here. So we had Legion of Superheroes,
Yep.
which was again some gorgeous artwork on the front. But say sadly now this is, I'd hate to admit it, but this is classed as a vintage comic. Not
Yeah.
that old, but it is a vintage comic. It's not that old. Remember that. That's the important part. But also fantastic Flash comic with some gorgeous artwork on the front.
Yeah.
And again, anywhere else, if you go around a Comic Con or a comic shop or a secondhand vintage shop, um, there are some shops here and there that will see anything that looks remotely old and
Yeah.
put a ridiculous price stamp on the front of it. And a comic like that, you could probably find bagged and boarded and made looking nice and pretty. £20 easily
Yeah.
to the right fan that needs that issue in their collection. But to get those, and I've read them and I've enjoyed them, and I did have one duplicate. That was the one thing, but that's me just being a hoarder and not having a decent way of storing my comics.
So the duplicate was on your end though. We didn't give you a.
Not, no, no, it's duplicate on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my fault. But again, it was
French
a
comics
risk.
dissolved.
Yes, it. You're off the hook. But that's the sort of when you want to complete a collection, you just get as many comics as you can find.
Yeah.
And for me, it was that excitement of what am I going to get? How are these stories going to be related to the stories that I've already got? Am I going to learn about new characters or new artists or new writers? And it's
Yeah.
again, as you said, it was a great gift. It could be a great gift for someone. It's a great gift for yourself as well. I
Yep.
will. I've seen that style of selling items in bookshops. Sort of, you'd get a book in a brown paper bag, and it would just say on the front a very, very brief synopsis of what the
Yeah.
book's about.
Yeah.
And it could be Moby Dick, it could be anything, but it's that little hint of mystery of what you're getting in the bag. And again, it's a great way of you for getting rid of all that stock.
Yeah.
A great way for new and old comic fans as well. But I think the next time I visit Reading and get to Crunch Comics, I want a sneaky visit upstairs. I want to see this like
The full on
I
storage.
want to see the Aladdin's cave of goodies that is up there.
It's just it's sort of like your normal storage collection of just bat boxes absolutely everywhere, and some
Oh,
desk space in the middle for bagging
oh,
and boarding.
oh.
So we've recently sort of got a third member of the team, Anna, who's been doing the bagging and boarding for us because Brian and I are sort of tired of bagging and boarding at this point.
Well,
And if
if
people are excited to do it, so
it's a fantastic job. It's one of those very therapeutic jobs. If you get the right music on, you
yeah,
get all your tools around you, nice roll of sellotape, bag, board, go. It's that
just
sort
go
of
for it.
that's it. Nice repetitive job that you can just get lost in.
I will say, I think the true marker of working in a comic store is how fast you can make up 100 bags and boards from the bags and board packet.
Yeah.
I can't remember my time now. I haven't timed it in a long time, but that is quite fun to be like, oh yeah, this is the hard task of
This is the
the
fun
day.
of getting
Just
the right
going.
amount of right amount of boards flipped up and flipped out.
Yeah.
That's it. So let's talk about comics that you would love to have in your collection? Ones that possibly could be with outside of your price range, or a dream item that you could find at a car boot sale one day.
My personal collection, I think I am really lucky, actually. Well, not really lucky. I think my taste is probably a little bit more low key. So a lot of the comics I'm looking for are quite reasonably priced, and I could probably achieve them if I just had the time. But they're, that sort of holy grail item, or that
Mhm.
idea that you're going to go into a store
And
and
see it.
find it. So I'd rather not go out on eBay or whatever and look up or like try and find these comics. I want to hunt them down and see them in
Yes.
person. So for me, it's a lot of just getting some of the Green Arrow, Black Canary run from, maybe, is it 2010? That sort of period. Um, then just little things like TV show tie-ins. Like, I'd love the MacGyver comics. If anyone has the MacGyver comics,
Okay.
I am willing to pay a good
Wow.
price. And the Farscape comics as well, like little TV stuff that probably no one desperately wants, but those would be
The ones that are
my,
that's a good. I mean,
yeah,
especially the again, sort of the comics that were brought out when the comics were huge in the 80s and 90s. Everyone was like, "Well, we've got a popular TV show. Let's make a comic
let's
book
make a
series
comic.
about it."
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've got a few from the Superboy TV series that wasn't amazing, but the comics were possibly better than the show. I might upset some
Yeah.
people by saying that, but it's those ones. No, but I completely get that. How you said you want to find them in the wild.
Yeah, I need it to be an organic find, or maybe it might be we've got them upstairs in our store in a back box somewhere. And that is the, I'm trying to sell your sort of on working in a comic store,
You
is
know,
we definitely get
you don't
the
have to work
first
hard.
pick of
That's it.
what comics we take. And like, so we got some of the Electras through from the early 2000 run,
Yeah.
and I'm a huge Bill Sienkiewicz fan, and so those were all set aside for me. Some of the Greg Horn covers as well, whoopsie daisy sort of thing. And I think, as talking of Sienkiewicz, one of my sort of big holy grails is a very simple Vigilante cover for issue 28 that was about £3, and we had a complete set in the store, so I didn't want to break it up. So I did buy
No,
that one on eBay, but because it was like pennies, it didn't really
no.
matter. But it is about having those cool covers sometimes.
It
And
is.
that's the hardest part for me about, actually, about the mystery bags, is that we have to put away some of these lovely covers, and you don't know if people are going to appreciate, like, that Flash cover.
Gorgeous artwork.
That's great.
Something as different
Yeah.
as that could quite easily work as a canvas. You know,
Yeah.
it's comics like that when you've got those bold lines and interesting covers, a little bit of drama, a little bit of insight of what you might be getting in that story. And that's why I comics today are great. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
it's those comics of Superman fighting dinosaurs and doing some really random stuff. Those ones that, as a kid, to see that on a newspaper stand and think, "Oh, new comics out! Look what he's
I
doing
need
this
that.
week."
Yeah. Yeah.
And seeing that again, it's why if I'm out and about again at the classic car boot sale, or a vintage comic shop or a bookshop, and I'll see some £1
Fingers
bargains,
crossed that something's
it's like
there.
there's going to be something in there. I think many a moon ago, I've got a few of them now, but it was Kryptonite Nevermore. It's one of my favorite images of Superman ripping those kryptonite chains off his chest,
Yeah.
and I found that in a 50p box, and I was like, I mean, it's worth nothing to most people, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, for me, it was like, oh, that's
It's
my
to
favorite.
you.
It's for me,
Yeah.
and that's it. And that's why sort of going through a £1 box is it's a big rush
Yeah.
to think what you're going to find. And again, it's why I easily sometimes get duplicates because I just grab a pile of comics and take them all home with
I
me.
need those. Yeah.
That's it. So this space that you have above the shop, where do all these comics come from? Do you sort of, are they sort of found, or old collectors just wanting to get rid of their stuff?
So they're sort of a combo, I think. So we just had our 7th birthday, and so
Yeah.
we've had a lot of, basically, give or take, a lot of stock from 2017 onwards is up there. So that's, and you think about it, comics come out weekly, and so
Yeah.
that quickly, if we've got duplicates or ones that didn't sell at that time around, it builds up quite fast. And then we've got some of Brian's personal collection that he's brought up and out. And there's some that he'll never get rid of. And I'm lucky, well, he's lucky, I guess, that I don't know off the top of my head all the comics he's got, because otherwise we'd have a lot of people like, why aren't you telling me about this? But then we've gotten some great ones from that, like customers have said, like, we've got these in good condition.
Mm.
I'll take that, like, we'll take those off your hand, sort of thing. And then some people that we've just brought job lots off of. And a lot of people do come in to sell us comics, and we sort of at the moment are encouraging, like, do it yourself, go to eBay, because that's where you're going to get the best price,
Yeah.
because unfortunately we can only give like peanuts for what they might be worth. But I think it is like a real combo of those three things that has given us a lot of our stock. But it definitely, the big killer is the everything that's come out in the since 2017. I'm surprised our unit hasn't slowly collapsed in on
Yeah,
us.
if I come back next time and the roof's a little bit lower, I'll know that
Yeah,
you've had a big delivery or someone's got rid of their stuff. Um, I've got a friend recently that I'm itching for the invite to come along and see it, but he's been an avid collector for decades, and he's helped people around the world get some of their Grail items, so
yeah,
graded sort of comics that belongs in museums sort of thing.
yeah.
And he's recently, I won't mention his name because he'll probably get a bit upset with me, but he's sold most of his collection
Hmm.
because he was able to get his hands on his own Superman #1. Now,
Yeah,
not graded. It's not a it's not a 10 by any means, but to him, it's that item that he's always wanted and sort of wanted to hold in his hand.
yeah.
And I think that's where I would find it difficult, sort of selling my collection of all the things that I've found over the years for that one particular comic. But if you had the chance, one of your biggest Grail items, not necessarily a comic or a Psyduck or anything from Power Rangers or Pokemon, if you could trade all of your collection for one particular item, fictitious or real, what
Oh,
would that item be?
I, d- I don't know. I don't really have a an answer to this. I think I'm still searching for my holy grail item, really. I feel like I'm not necessarily, I think I've definitely been a nerd my whole life. I'm not gonna deny that. But I think there's still so much more to discover and
Oh,
to, like, for me it's like silly things like I'm a huge Stargate fan. So there's like a Stargate board game, and I don't play board games, but I'd love to get my hands on that. And there's like different sort of silly little things that you think would be cool to have. Like, I'd love to complete, I've got some wrestling figures behind me and I haven't got a full set of the stable that I love, so I'd love to get the rest of them. But there's no, I definitely think I'm still searching for my proper holy grail item. But I
oh,
think,
I think I prefer
yeah,
that answer. I think the magic, as you said, is in the finding it, the hunt for it. And once you've got that
yeah,
item, you've got not nothing else in a way, but it's finding that item which is what makes it exciting. And
yeah,
it's that cheesy line of, oh, it's the friends we found on the way on the
on the
journey sort
way,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's what we learned about ourselves. But that's a very good way of looking at it. It's the fact that you've not found your grail item yet and you're going to keep looking. Love that. Thank you for your time today. I've only got a few more questions, and they are around the theme of comic shops. I want
yeah.
to speak with more independent comic shops this year, and the list is building up. So thank you for your time.
That's
What I,
okay.
what I, what I would like to know, it's a loaded question, but what what makes a good comic shop, Bryce?
I think that's really, really hard to say. I think we get told a lot that we're an old school comic shop because we mostly sell comics and graphic novels and a little bit of manga, and our collectible sort of area is quite sparse. And I think a lot of people go like, "Oh, you're old school, you just have back issues and new comics." But then there's a lot of other people that do a lot of other things. Like,
Mm.
there's the Funko explosion, which somehow is still going, and I'm glad that people are still making money off of that. But these different ways, and it's 2024 now. You can be a sort of nerd and into geekdom in whatever way you can. It's not really limited, and I think there's so many ways to be a comic shop. So I think the physical output, there isn't really a proper definition anymore. I think as long as you sell some form of comics,
Mm.
that's you're a comic shop. But I think as well, it's that having that staff enthusiasm. There's that love. uh, Brian for sure doesn't get that much time to read comics, but he still loves comics and loves heroes. And if you get him to talk about like the people he loves, he's superbly knowledgeable. And for me, it's getting to see all these like new up and coming stuff that, and all these like artists that I love, and seeing all of that and then spreading that to other people and being like, okay, if you like this, like try something I like. And a lot of people are willing to take that on board. So I think it's less now about the, well, this is very like quite sappy actually. It's less about the physical place anymore. And I think it's about that sort of giving that nerdum and that friendliness and that sort of open arms back to people and saying like, hey, we're here. Like you're allowed to be. And because I think a lot of people as well, if you're slightly older, like even my age sort of thing, there's a lot of it was sort of you had to push down that being into superheroes,
Yeah.
and now there's way more this freedom. So I think a lot of older people, I'm sounding like everyone's old and decrepit, but no, um people that sort of felt quite constrained in this limited previous space that's happened
Mm.
now have somewhere where they can freely enjoy being into things. And I think that's a really nice place. And I think that's what makes the comic store, hypothetically, obviously we want to make money and sell a bunch of comics and keep surviving, and that's a hard thing in this
Yeah.
sort of world, and especially for us because we just sell comics and it's quite actually quite hard to make money off of comics. But that's sort of the long-winded answer to say there is no answer really.
But you said it in a wonderful way. It is that freedom. It's that nostalgia combined with coming in with an open mind to try something new,
Yeah,
and having a shop where you have that access to everything across the board, but also to be included in conversations with the people that know about the comics. I've been
yeah,
around long enough to visit many different types of comic shops to know when it works and when it doesn't. And it's important, yes, to acknowledge the customers that are with you since day one, but to also not forget about the new people coming through the door as well.
yeah,
And you did that very, very well. And it's why, sort of, as I said, I've worked in customer service for most of my life. And when people say, "How do you do a good customer service job?" is it's to be a good customer first of all.
yeah,
It's not necessarily knowing what you want, but asking the right questions and being, coming out of your comfort zone a little bit. I can remember my first independent comic shop I went into, and I was like, "Oh, they're going to ask me questions about what I want to read. They're going to be really
yeah.
mean and judgmental, and they're going to gatekeep." But it was a wonderful experience, and it's shops like that
Mm,
and shops like yours. It's why people want to keep adding to their ever-growing collections, Bryce.
yeah. And honestly, one of the greatest gifts in the world is knowing you've sold someone their first ever comic, or you're their first ever comic experience. And it's truly one of the like best things. Like every time it happens, you like get this sort of magical special feeling of like that could have changed this person's life in some way or another just by selling them that first comic. And they might never come in again, but it doesn't matter because you've in some way sort of altered. And it's really really cool to be that sort of I'm going to say pillar of the community. That sounds hoity-toity, but that sort of idea that with
Go
this
with it. Put that on a
bit
t-shirt.
of yeah, that'll be our next like free comic book day. Like support your local comic shop, pillar of the community. But yeah, to be that touchstone for people to
Mm.
come in, there's just something so cool about it, and that's definitely a motivation for a lot of this.
Yeah, I expect that's a good one to keep when you have those bad, long, busy days. You think, oh, what else could go wrong today? Those types of days. You've
Mm,
also got that chance that somebody might come in and say, "Look, I'm looking for a comic for a relative. I'm looking a comic for me. I've seen this film or I've read this series. How can I embrace it more?" And
yeah,
that's how it happened for me. My love for all things geeky came from one morning many a year ago. I woke up, started watching Smallville. It was on
yeah.
TV one day, and that season, obviously, I knew about Superman at the time. I knew he was a big character. It hadn't taken over my life as much back then. But once that season had finished, it was at a time when the internet wasn't as big as it is right now, and
Yeah.
we had to wait, and a second season wasn't guaranteed, and it certainly wasn't guaranteed to happen in England. This was before streaming and before any type of file sharing. So I was stuck with this thirst for more Superman. And so I went
Mm.
to a comic shop and I went to friends. I said, "Look, what stories can you recommend me?" And I got given a list of stories to read. Some of them are still behind me on my
On the
on my
shelf.
book on the shelf behind me, and that they've been read numerous times since. But it's those moments when you probably helped people achieve their dream of like, well, I need to know more about this hero. Where
Yeah.
do I begin? And as you said, that's an important role to have. So keep thinking about that memory on those bad days, Bryce. That's for sure. So yes, as you mentioned, free comic book day. That's always a busy day coming up.
Yeah.
Have you got anything planned this year for that yet?
So we're not, well, that's a little bit too far in the future to plan for us. We're taking it month by month.
Mm,
But yeah, so we'll have our sort of normal all the free comic book day, as many titles as we get in, sort of
mm,
thing. Last year's snafu was Brian didn't know what RuneScape was,
okay.
and we had people coming out of the woodworks to be like, "Have you got the RuneScape comic?" And Brian's like, "What is RuneScape?" And I'm like, "Oh no, Brian, what have you done?" But fingers crossed, we won't have any snafus like that this year. And we are going to have another £1 sale on all our. I say that now. I'm 99% sure we're going to have a
Okay.
£1 sale on all our back issues, and we'll have our normal. So we normally do 5% off of graphic novels and manga and just little things. And it's a proper community. It's definitely our biggest
Mm,
day, and it's the one that we sort of put a lot of hard work into. And I think it will be cool just this year. I think there's a lot of excitement already about it.
mm.
And I think as well, this sort of bums me out because Marvel never really do anything for May the 4th. And it is on May the
Yeah,
4th again
it's right
this
there.
year. So I fingers crossed we'll push some Star Wars comics as well and just have a little bit of fun with it. And we've got like a lot of like complete Mandalorian sets. Like if people want to come, that's a cool thing we do as well, is do these complete sets of
Yeah.
the single issues we have. So you don't, if you don't want to do a graphic novel, because some people don't, you can come get it in a complete set with us. So we'll probably have some deals on those as well.
Oh, lots
It's
of
just
stuff
exciting to
happening.
think about.
It is, isn't
Yeah.
it? And that's the thing. And I try and again with through Comic Book Day, there are a few local to me. I do have to sometimes travel around to get to them,
Yeah.
but it's important, as we know, to support comic shops all year round. But that one special day of the year when comics are the main event, it's a time
Yeah.
when everyone should be out there supporting the industry and the shops and the artists and writers that are helping create these stories. So
Hmm.
thank you for what you do, Bryce. For everybody that works at Crunch Comics, you're all doing fantastic work. I will be back at some point in this year.
Yeah.
I think we should try and find a quiet moment where we can record an episode within the shop, maybe
Yeah. Fingers
up,
crossed.
and maybe you could put me to work for a few hours working in a comic shop. And I
Yeah. We'll get
promise
you on bagging and boarding. That's the
that's
only
fine.
one we
Get
don't want
get
to
me
do.
on that
Yeah.
first of
You
all,
do the nice, easy things. Yeah.
and then I will come out and I'll be on the shop floor, but I will do the alphabet your way, Bryce.
Yeah.
Your way. So for that,
Brian's gonna find out about this and be like, "You've
Brian,
slagged me off." I'm like, Brian, I love you. I appreciate you.
you're a wonderful human, Brian. You were there when I visited the shop as well, so thank you for all that you do. Bryce, where can people find you physically in the real world, and where can they find you online?
So we're Crunch Comics and we're 1011, so like a 2 unit one in the Harris Arcade in Reading, which if you're not familiar in Reading, if you come out of the train station and walk up Station Road towards Central Town, We're on the left-hand side, and there's a little arcade sort of tuck in. Just walk through there, and we're on the corner.
You're on the corner. That's it.
Yeah, on the corner is key. And then we're at Crunch Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and I think we have a Facebook account. Brian runs that one, and I run everything else. So we're somewhere on there, but we're Crunch Comics everywhere,
Wonderful.
basically.
Well, all those links will be down below. Bryce, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a
Thank
very
you so much.
busy nerd and you've got a great
Yeah,
day ahead of you. But
yeah.
thank you
Well, it's
for.
delivery day today, so
All
it's a
right. Well,
great day. It's
should we
tamp it
keep
down. Every other day is a great
Shall we
day.
keep you here for a bit longer? Should we record a couple more episodes? We'll leave the work for somebody
Maybe.
else, but you'll be doing it at some point anyway, so it'll be fine. Bryce, thank you so much for all that you do for the world of comics and geeks and fandoms and passions. It means a lot to me.
It's an honor.
You are doing, the work that makes us happy. There's so many cogs in the machine when it comes to entertainment. We
Yeah,
sometimes do forget the people that are behind the scenes. And again, something as simple as putting a comic in a bag and boarding it, there is somebody along the way that is making a smile happen somewhere. And you
yeah.
are doing that in a fantastic way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Luke.
All right. I shall be speaking to you again in the year, but have a wonderful day. Stay
You
super.
too.
Keep doing what you're doing, and we will speak soon.